High atop a mountain wrapped in clouds, there lived an old master named Eikan. His cabin, simple and silent, was surrounded by trees that whispered secrets to the wind. Many climbed up in search of answers, but not all were prepared to hear what was essential. A young man named Sora, full of questions, arrived one dawn with dusty feet and a restless heart. He had read many books, visited temples, listened to sages, yet he still felt something was missing. "Master Eikan," he said, bowing respectfully, "I have come from far away to find peace. My mind keeps wandering between the past and the future. How can I find rest?" Eikan nodded without saying a word. With calm gestures, he invited the young man to sit before a low table. Then he brought a clay teapot and 2 cups. As he poured tea into Sora's cup, he didn't stop when it was full. The liquid began to overflow, soaking the table. "Master," Sora exclaimed, "the cup is already full." Eikan looked at him gently. "So is your mind, full of thoughts from the past and worries about tomorrow. How can you receive what is now if you are already overflowing with what is not here?" The young man fell silent. For the first time, he understood that his search had taken him far, except to the only place where he could truly find what he was seeking, the present. Sora spent the night in the master's cabin, surrounded by the crackling of the fire and the distant song of crickets. Though he had received no formal teaching, something within him began to settle, like mud sinking to the bottom of water when left undisturbed. The next morning, Eikan took him for a walk along a leaf-covered path. They didn't speak for a long while. Only footsteps, wind, and heartbeats accompanied their walk. "Breathe," the master said, stopping beside a blossoming cherry tree. "But do it as if this were the only breath that exists in the world." Sora obeyed, though he didn't fully understand. He inhaled deeply, feeling the air fill his chest, and then exhaled, long and gently. "What do you feel?" Eikan asked. "I feel that everything is fine," the young man replied, surprised by his own words. "For a moment, I didn't want anything else." Eikan nodded, watching the petals float through the air. When you are truly present, the world doesn't need to change for you to be at peace. It's not the place, nor the moment. It's your attention that transforms everything. And so, without sermons or magic formulas, Sora began to sense that the present was not just a fleeting moment. It was a doorway. Further along, they reached the bank of a crystal-clear river. The water ran effortlessly, gliding between the rocks with a softness only time can understand. Eikan sat silently on a flat stone and motioned for Sora to do the same. "Watch the water," said the master. "It doesn't try to rush or to stop. It simply flows. It never thinks of the puddle it once was, nor of the ocean it may become. It only exists here now." Sora gazed at the river. First, his mind wandered. He thought of his village, his mistakes, all that he had yet to achieve. But little by little, as if the murmur of the water were cleansing his thoughts, he began to enter an unfamiliar stillness. The master picked up a stone from the riverbed and placed it in the palm of his hand. "This stone has been here for centuries," he said, "yet it does not resist the passage of the water. It does not oppose. It does not struggle. It simply is." "Do you mean I should be like the stone?" Eikan smiled faintly. "You must be like the river and the stone, present like the flowing water, steady like the rock that remains undisturbed. If you can be both, you will discover the peace that depends on nothing." Sora nodded, not with words, but with the silence of someone beginning to understand what once had no name. That afternoon, back at the cabin, Master Eikan placed 2 bowls on the table. One was new, flawless, without a single imperfection. The other was cracked and repaired with a bright line of gold running along its surface. "Which of these two bowls do you prefer?" Eikan asked. Sora looked at them closely. The new one shone with cleanliness, but the cracked bowl held a different kind of beauty, as if it carried a story. "The broken bowl. It has life," he said at last. "It's not perfect, but it's been cared for, loved, and transformed." Eikan nodded. "So too is the present moment. It doesn't always arrive clean or without scars. Sometimes it comes with rain, with loss, with noise. But when you accept it as it is, without trying to change it or judge it, it shines. Not because it's perfect, but because you are truly there with it." Sora lowered his gaze to his own hands. They had held broken dreams, mistakes, and doubts. But they had also searched, learned, and felt. "So I don't need to erase the past or control the future?" "No," Eikan replied calmly. "You only need to be fully in this moment, because it is the only place where you can live, heal, and be free." And for the first time, Sora felt no need to keep asking questions. Silence was enough. The next day, as the sun barely peeked through the clouds, Sora and Eikan went out to the garden. The master, shovel in hand, began to turn over the damp earth. Sora watched him for a moment before asking, "What are we doing?" "Planting a plum tree," Eikan replied, "but not for its fruit. We do it for this very moment." Sora knelt down and began to help. The soil crumbled between his fingers, fresh, real. The sweat on his brow, the sound of the birds, the breath shared with the earth. Everything was so simple, and yet so complete. "Many live waiting for the perfect moment," Eikan said as they placed the small tree into the ground. "But the now waits for no one. Every moment you ignore is a petal that falls and never returns." Sora remained silent, feeling how each gesture carried a sacred weight. It wasn't about doing something grand. It was about being truly present, whatever the moment held. "The present is not a destination," Eikan said softly. "It is the path itself. And when you walk it with awareness, everything begins to make sense, even what you do not yet understand." Sora looked at the tree they had just planted. It was nothing more than a fragile sprout, and yet it was already complete. That afternoon, a gentle rain began to fall. The drops hit the roof of the cabin with a rhythm that seemed to invite introspection. Eikan and Sora sat by the open window, letting the breeze brush their faces. "Master," Sora said softly, "my mind keeps bringing me thoughts. Sometimes it speaks of the past. Sometimes it pushes me toward the future. Even here, in this silence, it seems never to stop." Eikan closed his eyes for a few seconds and then responded, "The mind is like the sky. Thoughts are like clouds. They appear, they move, and they disappear. The problem is not that they come, but that you follow them. You make them yours." Sora thought for a moment. The rain continued to fall, without hurry. "How do I stop following them?" The master gestured simply to the rain. "Can you stop this rain?" "No." "Can you make it fall harder or softer?" "No." "Then simply observe it," Eikan said. "So too with thoughts. Do not fight them, do not chase them. Just watch them come and go, like drops that leave no trace in the deep lake of consciousness." Sora closed his eyes and listened to the rain without resistance, without interpretation. For the first time, he didn't try to change anything. And in that moment, without knowing how, he felt something extraordinary. He was completely present. At dawn on the last day, Sora and Eikan walked once more through the forest. This time, there were no words, only soft footsteps, calm breaths, and a harmony that needed no explanation. Suddenly, Sora stopped. The sun pierced through the branches, casting dancing lights on the ground. The birds' song, the whisper of the wind, the earthy scent of the damp soil. Everything was intensely vivid, as if the world had just awakened. "Master," he said with a trembling voice, "I think I understand." Eikan looked at him in silence, waiting. "I've spent my whole life searching for something. I thought it was peace, answers, enlightenment, but now I see that I was missing nothing. I just wasn't here." Eikan nodded with a deep tenderness. "The truth is not hidden," he said gently. "It is only eclipsed by our absence. The present does not need to be attained. It only needs you to return to it." Sora closed his eyes. There was no rush now, no struggle. Everything he was enough. And in that moment, he knew he had found what cannot be named, because it is not in words. It is in the now, and it had always been there. Sora bid farewell to Master Eikan at the foot of the path, where the long descent into the valley began. There were no grand words, no promises of return, only a silent bow, a shared glance, and the breeze caressing the pines like an eternal sigh. As he descended, the world seemed different, though nothing had changed, except him. Each step, each sound, every detail had a serene clarity. He was no longer the same young man who had climbed up seeking answers. Now he walked without seeking, without fleeing, simply being. He passed by a stream and stopped. He watched how the water slid between the stones and remembered the master's words. "The present is not a goal. It is the path itself." Sora smiled. He understood that the present was not an idea to think about, nor a technique to master. It was a sacred space that had always been open, waiting to be inhabited. He took a deep breath. He felt the weight of his body, the warmth of the sun, the beat of his heart. And then, without wishing for anything else, he simply was. In that moment, without any effort, Sora discovered the true power of the present. Not to change everything, but to allow everything just as it is to transform him.